Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tony Tone, the Chess Salsero. Guys, today we're going to talk about what I rarely see anywhere, and that is what is an outpost? What is the purpose of an outpost? An outpost basically is a square for a piece that cannot be attacked by an opposing pawn. And that piece, which is usually a minor piece, a bishop or a knight, mainly knights, is defended by one of our pawns. And I'm going to show you several examples here, guys, of what I mean. I got my little collection here. I'm in chess.com, and we're going to go through all of these. A bishop post, a knight post. I mean, you can have an outpost with a rook. It's rare, but they really are mainly for knights and bishops, but mainly the knights. And this is why I have one here called The Eagle Has Landed, and I'm going to show that one to you last. So let's go through what an outpost looks like. So let me see. I'm going to pick this game here. We're going to analyze this. Is move 36. And this might be a little more intermediate, guys. Beginners, obviously you could watch this if you want, but this is a little more intermediate. So we're going to go to move 36. It's kind of crazy right now. And let me see. Okay, so this is an example of an outpost. You see this knight here on b3. It's white's turn. He's going to move it. Boom. He's hopping into the c5 square that's protected by a pawn, which is protected by the knight and the queen simultaneously. Now, why is this important? An outpost, if you learn how to create an outpost and set outposts at different parts of the board, mainly in the enemy position, it really helps to restrict the amount of space that your opponent has to move in. It's a spatial advantage, a positional advantage. So here's my point. This pawn here on d5 that used to be on d7 has already moved up 2 squares. It's not here. It's not here where it can attack the knight. It's already past it. And there is no pawn on this file. So no pawn can dislodge this knight from this outpost. On top of it, in this particular game, in this position, I am forking 2 rooks at the same time, which is massive. But let's say the rooks weren't even there. Let's say they were gone. The point is that I control all those squares in here in the enemy position, and he can't take me out. Unless he moves the bishop out here, which he'll lose it. Unless he finds another way. Maybe he hops with his knight here to remove this outpost. There's no way a regular pawn can dislodge that knight. I want to make sure you understand an outpost is a pawn protecting a piece, mainly a minor piece, and like mainly knights. There are exceptions. Yeah, there's some bishops, which I'm going to show you. A bishop outpost. You could have an outpost with a rook, but it's mainly the knights and the bishops. It's just great to understand how to create outposts in order to gain a positional advantage against your opponent. All right, so that's the first one. We're going to go to the second game here. I'm going to show you what a knight post is not a valid knight outpost. All right, in this example, it says move 9. So let's go to move 9. And I just picked random games. This happened to be one of my games against somebody named Concrete. Number 9. So let's go right here. Boom. Wait a minute. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Let me come back here. Or maybe it was from this side. So I'm trying to find where this outpost was. Okay, right here. This is not okay. This knight, which I moved it to d5 from f6. Now it's a nice strong outpost. When you have an outpost, guys, you want to create an outpost in the center of the board or somewhere in the enemy territory. Now, this is normally a great outpost for this knight. The problem is, look, there's no pawns here that can dislodge the knight, which is great, but there is right here on e3. So if he moves that pawn up, I have to move it back or somewhere else. So that's not really a valid outpost. A valid outpost is one where no pawns are adjacent on the adjacent files, left or right of it, and it can be attacked by a regular piece, another knight, a bishop, a rook, a queen, whatever, but not a pawn. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that this is not an outpost, even though it looks like one, because this pawn can dislodge this knight. All right. All right, let's go. Let's go back here. We're going to move up the board here. I'm going to show you what another invalid knight outpost is on move 17 here. So let's go to 16. Okay, was this it? No, hold on a sec. Okay. This is not really a valid, hold on a sec. Move 17. Okay. The reason this is not a valid outpost, when this knight, the black knight, moved right into the e4 square, which is a great square, it's kind of an outpost. The problem is when I move my knight here on f3, which I think I did soon here, or the other guy did, I can actually come here and dislodge the knight. So it is a strong knight in that central position, no doubt. But it is not a valid outpost because I can move it out and actually fork the bishop and the rook right here on f3. So that's why I said that's not a valid outpost. This is an outpost for me right here with my white knight on d4. The problem is his black knight can take mine, but there are no pawns adjacent on the adjacent files to my knight. So I have a valid outpost, but he does not. Let's go to another example here. I'm going to show you a bishop post on move 23. Hopefully, guys, you're getting the hang of this, of what an outpost looks like, what's an outpost, what is not a valid outpost. What was the move? 23, I think it was. So let's come here to 22. And let's see what happens here. Okay, right here. When this bishop on this pawn on c3 moved up to c4, it now created a nice little outpost in the center of the board on the center files for the bishop. There are no opposing pawns that could dislodge my bishop. The only thing he can do is move the knight here to e6, or this knight to e6, right here, to threaten my bishop there. But it is a valid bishop outpost, and it's a beautiful one. It's centralized, and it heads right into the king position there on this a2 to g8 diagonal. All right, let's go to another example of a bishop outpost on move 30 here. So let's go to move 30. All right, so here goes my outpost right here. If I go back a few moves, this is actually a little mini outpost. The difference is it's an outpost, but it's in my camp. It's not in his. And it's a good outpost because, this pawn protects the bishop and the bishop protects the pawn back, right? And the knight also protects the bishop. And it's heading through the center diagonal, which is great. So what he does correctly is he moves the knight out so he could position, he protects this pawn here on b7 so he can position, watch, he moves the king out so he could reposition his pawn, his bishop, to oppose my bishop on this diagonal. Well, this guy Rudolph Swiderski probably should have taken his bishop here um, which would give the white bishop total control of the white squares in the game and through this long diagonal, which is great. So he's doing exactly that, repositioning that. Boom, there he goes. And now I don't. The Rudolph doesn't take him. He just comes into the middle. Why? Because this is a strong outpost. Even if the bishop takes him, he has a pawn, a centralized pawn. He has two pawns, and two pawns heading down the middle of the board. The two big center files, D and E. It's very, very dangerous. It's like molten lava coming down a volcano. It's hard to stop because it's on its way. It's going to create a pass pawn, which is backed up by the rook on the E file and the knight on G5. So he attacks Rudolph's knight. Anyway, so I'm not going to continue forward, but look at this beautiful outpost. Even if the black bishop takes the white bishop, he has protected pass pawns in the middle of the board. This is great for white. All right. Next example. We're going to show you on move 18 another knight outpost. Let's go to this one here. Move 18. Let's go to 15. Okay. I already see here. This is great. See this right here? This F5 square? This is a beautiful square for the white knight on G3 to hop to. Why? Because the pawns are already past him. No one can attack him. And he has no opposing piece other than the queen. But what he does is he goes to this square. It's not an knight. It's not an outpost yet because the pawn is not protecting it. But he gains time on black because he's attacking the queen. The queen counterattacks the knight. And now, because of the pawn push from G2 to H4, protects the knight on H5, and that is now classified as an outpost. That knight can actually come back here to G3 and re-hop into F5. And the point is that look at the squares it controls in the enemy position. It takes away squares. If this knight were here on F5, it would hit this square, this square, this square. Either way, you have a strong knight in the enemy position by the king, and it's not opposed by any pawns or any piece. So it's very strong positionally for white here. All right, moving on. Let's go to another knight outpost, move 20. I want to give you guys a lot of examples here so you get a better understanding of it, guys. I know this might be over the head for beginners or novices, but when you start learning tactics and positional play, all this will start to come into a better understanding for you. So what was the move here on move 20? Let's go to move 20. There's 19. All right. So you see this knight hop? The black knight, there's a saying in chess that says a knight on the rim is grim or is dim. What does that mean? It has no influence on the center of the game. It's stuck here like Chuck on the side of the board. It only hits this and this. You want to centralize your knights where it hits an octagon, all 8 squares around. Like this knight hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an octagon, right? You don't get an octagon when a knight is on the rim on either file, the A file or the H file. So he better positions his knight. He hops into the C4 square as an outpost because the pawn is protecting it, and I have no opposing pawns that could dislodge this knight. So he's hitting this. He's hitting everything here. He's hitting the octagon. Look at all this. It's a mess, right? But it has more power, more influence when you bring the knights or any piece, when you centralize any piece. And if you have a knight outpost like this, this is very strong because he's taken away all of my dark squares in my camp that I want to use. All right. Next example, another knight post, move 17. Move 17. All right, we're going to go to 16 right here. So let's see where that knight outpost is. This is nice. This attacks the queen. Double attack on the pawn on b4. Very nice outpost right here because it hits the bishop. Again, it's in the white position. Look at this. And I cannot dislodge the knight with pawns because I don't have any pawns on either side, either file to that knight. So that's an example of the knight outpost for black. Knight hops right here into d4. Bam. And it's just going to sit there, controlling squares around it until white finds a way to get rid of that knight. Like, for example, one way would be to bring the white knight to c2, attacking the great outpost on d4. All right. Next example, we're going to show you a bishop outpost, move 36. All right. So let's go to move 36 here. We'll go to 34. All right. We got a bishop outpost coming up, I guess. Where art thou? All right. Right here. This is a nice little bishop outpost. It protects the pawn, and the pawn protects the bishop. They protect each other. It's kind of like two rooks that you connect together, or two knights that are close to each other. They protect each other. This is great because it controls all the dark squares in the enemy position, and it's kind of centralized, hitting this long diagonal either way. Very nice. The way he did that was when the queen came here, it cannot be taken. All right, so let's go to the next example. We're almost done here. Another bishop outpost on move 32. Move 32. Let's go to move 29. All right. This is a great outpost for the bishop. Why? He has no opposing pawns of white that can dislodge him from that square, the d4 square. Very strong. Another, if you look, you can spot, if you just search the board, you can imagine in your mind, you must use visualization without touching the pieces, and see where the bishops and where the knights, especially the knights, where they can hop to, where there's a hole. There's a hole in the enemy position. You see this e6 square right here? That's a hole that I can really put this white knight right there. That'll be very strong for white. Why? Because no pawns oppose the knight if it lands on e6. So I don't know. Okay, there he goes. I didn't see. Look at that. He did exactly. I've never seen this game. This is Vishwanand, the former Indian world champion. He went literally from here to here to here. Why? Because he saw it was very strong. Now he's attacking the bishop, attacking the pawn. Let's see what happens here. He takes that, and he protects the pawn with the knight. So the rook cannot come here to reattack the knight. All right. I'm going to show you an invalid bishop post. Literally just one move. So this is invalid. Why? For black. Why is it invalid? Because yeah, this looks like a nice outpost. The problem is there's no pawns here to oppose it, to get it out. But there is a pawn here on e3. And if it's white's turn to move, bam, he dislodges the bishop from that central great bishop outpost that leads to the center of the board. Anything that you centralize, guys, any piece is great. It has more influence, has more power there. So he has to move that bishop somewhere out of the way. He could have moved here, not here because the knight controls that square, not here because he would have lost it to the rook or the knight. So he came back where he can go back whichever kind of way he wants, or maybe push this out and go there. So if I go back again, it's very simple. Get that knight out the way. I mean, that bishop, it's a forced move. All right. So now I'm going to show you my favorite It's called the eagle has landed. What does that mean? That is the most powerful knight outpost in the entire game of chess. And let's see what it looks like. It just has so much power. All right, so visualize in your mind, where are the holes in black's position where you could pop a knight in there and it cannot be dislodged by a black pawn. Immediately, my brain, just from experience, sees e5. Man, if I could put a knight there, let's see. He moves here, protects the knight. Bam, the eagle has landed. Why? Look at this. It's centralized. It's beautiful. And it's protected by a beautiful pawn chain and island right there. Kind of looks like a diamond formation. When you get that diamond formation in the middle of the board and nobody can take that knight out, no pawn or no other piece, this knight, if it were here, could oppose the knight there on e5, that beautiful eagle. But it ain't. It's way over here on b5. So how in the world would it even get there? It can't. It would have to make, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hops to get to this knight. By that time, it's a whole different position, different dynamic on the chessboard. So look at the influence of this knight. I take away all these squares in the enemy position. This is beautiful. It's very strong, very powerful. You would never give up. I have a video called Good versus Bad Pieces, which basically says that you don't give up a good piece for a bad piece. So, for example, this bishop, the black bishop here on d7 is horrible. Why? It's stuck in here. It can't get out. It's a horrible bishop. It's stuck there. Has no scope, no range, no activity, no nothing. So if I were to go, it would be a massive blunder if this knight on his next move, after black moves, to take this bishop on d7, when the knight is so strong here on b5. This is an eagle. This knight is an eagle. You know, it's just really, really strong. So, all right, so I showed you about, 12 examples here, guys. You know, as you continue playing, and you get better and better and better. Look at my video that I did on pawn structure, pawn formations, and just pawn play in general. And through the use of your pawns, and as you play more and more, let me see. Let me go here to add a game. I'm going to set up a position. And if we just look at this, and we just play a random game. Let's say he does this, I do this, he does this. I come here, he takes, boom. I'm just giving you a make-believe position here. I'm just choosing random moves here, because I'm going to show you how you're going to look for and create an outpost. This already right here is an outpost. If this pawn comes up and pushes his knight out, which usually is the case. So I just went here. Let's say he does. Sorry, guys. This is all. Let me get this right. Let's say he takes his pawn and he attacks my knight on d4. He's basically saying get out the way. So I can either move here, or I can move back here, or I can move back where I came from on f3. Either way, I have to move, right? So let's say I move now. Here's my point. Let's say he comes here because he wants to castle. Look at this beautiful outpost I have right here on d5. Now, he can take me. Don't get me wrong. But it's still an outpost. Why? Because no pawns can oppose it if I hop in here. If this pawn were here, I would never hop in here, obviously. But it's passed. Not a pass pawn, but I mean it's passed. It's passing me, the knight. Now he can take me. I have to be careful how I do this, guys. Hold on. He had a knight right here. All right, now he can take me here. Then I can create another outpost right here. Or I can take his... Man, one day I'm going to get this right. All right. Or I can take him here. The point is, I have a centralized knight on a d5 square that I took advantage of to create an outpost. And it is an advantage. It is a positional advantage for you because you are controlling more squares in the enemy position. Anyway, guys, I hope you learned something there. I gave you a bunch of different examples. As you play your games, start to look on the board and start to visualize and look for holes. A hole is where you see a square where no pawn can attack whatever piece you put on that square. Right? Here's another quick example. Let's say he's right here. This is a nice little outpost. This is a hole. This is a hole like Swiss cheese. It's a hole in the cheese. You're looking for holes in the enemy position. Why? Because that's where you're going to plant a minor piece, a knight, a bishop. Look, it's protected twice by the pawn and the bishop on c1. And it is beautiful because I hit and control all the squares in the enemy position. So he would have to take me out. And then this would be bad for him, obviously, because his queen is under attack. He'd have to move out. But I control. This is a bishop outpost. I went from a knight outpost to a bishop. And now I control all these squares. And he's just in a major disadvantage right there. So learn to spot, look for empty squares where pawns don't attack it. And those are great placement pieces for your knights and bishops, especially your knights, to create an outpost for a positional and spatial advantage, guys. Guys, thank you for watching. And please subscribe to my channel at chess.salcero27 on YouTube. Or you can follow me on Instagram under chess_salcero, SALSERO. And I'm out. Tony's out. Peace.